Welcome everybody to Meet the Polymaker. I'm your host Joel. Proof that you can run a 3D printing show without reading the manual. Welcome in everybody. Nice to see everybody already in chat. Look at you guys go. But if you're new here, I always announce it. I hope that we get new people every week. We talk about 3D printing news, show off community highlights or prints from our Discord server, and then ultimately we meet a new maker every single episode. And again, as always, this is the same formula. So we'll be meeting our maker a little bit later here. But until then, we're going to jump right into hot and headlines. And first up, we're going to talk about 3D printed skin at the bedside. What does that mean? They are already developing. We've talked about medical stuff all the time. We've looked at the 3D printed skin grafting type things where we can use cells, we can print skin pieces per se and have them graft on. This is a new approach to where at bedside, they're getting to the point where they can have a printer, a robotic arm, be able to print that skin again from the person's own cells onto a wound to help stitch that wound up. That's crazy. Rather than having to have, stitches, go through that. And nowadays, they have the dissolving stitches and things like that. But this is just going to put the skin back where it needs to be, whether it be a burn victim or an injury, a cut, etc. But it's going to be done by LIGO, I think. It's LIGO with a little squiggly above the O. But a robot that prints real skin using the patient's own cells. It's going to be the world's first 3D printed skin robot that treats burns in Australia. So don't hear a lot of the stuff starting in Australia. At least I haven't come across it. But they're backing it with a $3.5 million investment to get things rolling. And so far, where they have used it, they're saying the 3D printed skin heals faster and with less pain and less scarring. And where the patient reports no pain after the treatment. So really awesome leap forward. Now imagine this, whether bedside or eventually out in the wilderness, they come across somebody, or that's even with the war, things like that, people can be treated right away. It's going to increase the chance or decrease the chance of infections, increase the chance of life and less mortality, or more mortality, however it's said. You know what I'm saying. Next up, talk about smart fabrics with some sense to them. What this is a 3D printed smart fabric that stays flexible. It's got a couple different things. Stays flexible after 20 washes. They say it maintains conductivity after 50 stretch tests, and they're basically able to embed fabrics or monitors for motion and vital signs into the fabric. Right now it's carbon nanotube infused fabrics. They resist wear and tear. It's eco-friendly solvent, Cyrene, I think it's called, used in the smart fabric printing. And what is cool overall about this fabric is it can get us to the point to where wearable things of clothes can monitor things such as heart rate, blood pressure. There's things in the sock to really, of course, to do motion, to detect motion, pressure. There's all sorts of almost sensor-like things they can sense through the fabric when it's designed or when it's printed in this way. With the nanotubes in it. So really cool way, again, for rather than just having your normal Apple Watch or Galaxy Watch that monitors your heart rate and oxygen levels, etc. This is a lot more advanced and maybe just a daily wear thing, especially for those that aren't with electronics or some that can't wear electronics due to other things in their body, pacemakers, etc. So really cool thing to see with fabrics. We'll see where it goes. Next up, we have Philips. If anybody here has a trimmer and has kids, I blame my kids because I have no other reason to believe it's anything else. The pieces, the little guards for trimmers disappear. In my household, they've disappeared multiple times, and it's very irritating. So to see Philips now bringing out to where you're going to be able to print parts for a lot more things. Right now, it's just one piece, or for their one blade. It's the trim guard that you see here, available for free on printables. They're actually, and it's an initiative, they're working with Prusa on developing and be able to put them available for download and print. They say they're going to do a lot more with just more than just the trimmers, not the actual bodies and full pieces where you can print your entire product, but the accessories, attachments that may break, you may lose them. They may disappear into the night with little bathroom goblins. I don't know. But you're going to be able to print your own parts now, which for me is awesome. So I need to make sure I get myself a one blade. Next up, we got Walmart with 3D printing buildings, which is not new. We've actually done a article on this, I believe, last year. And it was out of Athens, Tennessee, where they had built a 8,000 square foot, I believe it was a storage facility as part, an expansion from one of their other buildings. And what is cool about this, it's not the warehouse, a little bit smaller. It's a 5,000 square foot area. It's 3D printed concrete, but they've increased efficiency on it quite a bit. Right now they're saying that the walls are 3 times stronger than the traditional builds. Construction time was cut by 50% using 3D printing. And then it was the expansion was built with the walls itself. Of course, all the internal electrical and everything else is extra, but the structure was built with within 75 hours and a team of 5. They had a significantly less waste, much quicker efficiency on this build as compared to the one that they did at the end of last year in Tennessee. So it's just going to show how much technology has advanced with 3D printing concrete in such a short time. And really, when we see big companies like Walmart, grasping this, we're going to see even more innovation because there's going to be that much more money involved. And time is money. When you're a huge corporation, every little bit counts. If you need to do expansions onto 100 plus of your stores, you want it as fast, as cheap, as efficient as possible. And it's going to keep pushing that envelope. So we're going to see even more advancement in just a year's time. And last but not least, I had this one brought to my attention by community member Little D, and I had to add it to it. Orange to juice to cup. So this machine you see here in the picture, it's got a cool little canopy. Those are actual oranges on a little rail that are gravity fed into a juicer. If anybody's ever had a wholesale orange juice, in my opinion, as long as it's the fresh stuff, best orange juice ever. It's just highly, highly, highly overpriced. But anyway, this not only juices the orange, squeezes the orange into juice, whatever. The peels then go in the bottom, which you see in the kind of that clear bowl, and then this machine will grind those up, dry them and grind them, and then use that powder with an additive. And if you see in the middle there, kind of a Delta printer, it then allows that material to be used to print cups. Obviously recyclable cups. You can't 3D print new oranges, unfortunately. That would be really awesome, but really cool that it produces its own cups for people to enjoy the drink and then be able to dispose of properly with again a much more sustainable material, or I won't say fabric, but material. So I've not seen one of these in real life. I would love to come across one and try it out, but we'll see. It's by a company called, I think it was Ein ENI. So I'm not sure if they have a locator on their website. I'll have to check that, and if we can find one, or if you know where one's at, let me know. I'd love to check it out. But that is it for the news. But next, we do what we always do, and we head into the Spool to Spotlight. In this segment here is what we do every single episode. We share community prints, and where do I find those prints? None other than discord.polymaker.com. And there's a little channel there. It's called Show Off Prints. That's where you can post all your prints that you like. Good, bad, the ugly, anything is game. Always ask you to share the link. Everybody's doing much better, but we still got some people not posting the link to the file that you're sharing. And there are some really awesome prints that I know people want to know where they can get it so they can print for themselves. So don't forget that link. First up, Karen Chow Designs not only printed, but also modeled this maker chip holder. It is a poker chip maker chip holder. What better item to print when we only have a couple days until Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival? This is available on Maker World for free if you want to download it yourself and bring along to the event and start collecting those maker chips, because I hear there's going to be quite a few, and maybe there'll be some Polymaker filament involved if you go collect some, but got to find out at the booth, at the maker chip booth. Next up, we have a print by Maker Megan. Why did I have this so far down low? Anyway, this is actually a really cool print, not only just because it's all rainbow colors, but what you see here are tools, and they are cardboard crafting tools designed by Dirk McGurk, available on Maker World. And these are safe tools to use to cut cardboard, whether you're doing crafts, or I've seen people do like a lot of like really intricate cardboard forts if you have children. But it's something they can use also to where it's not a blade, it's not scissors. Very much less likely to visit the ER after cutting tons of boxes with your kids. So again, that's available on MakerWorld. Next up, we have Tech Jeeper, who prints a Jeep Rancher 4x4 by 3D Sets. It's available on their website at 3dsets.com, and this is an RC Rancher 4x4. Amazing print. Obviously, colors a great choice. The thing looks legit. It's just miniature Jeep, so awesome print, great design by 3D Sets as always. So go get it yourself today. I think it was 18. It's either 11 or $18. I can't remember. Next print is up by Jay. This is the Saint Mary. It is a design by Benny, and it is available somewhere because I did not put it on there. I'm actually going to do this live, show off prints, because I don't know why I missed that, or well, maybe it wasn't shared. No, it's there. It's on MakerWorld. There we go. This is available on MakerWorld, and this was just a very, I'm not sure what the layer height that they printed this at. Just a beautiful print. I know this is a smaller picture. If you go over to our Discord, you can see the larger picture, and it is very well done. It just looks like a marble chiseled sculpture. There we go. There you go. But awesome print as always. Last but not least, we got a big one. This is by Lemony Fresh Punk, and this is Satoru Gojo from Kaizen something or other. I don't know the anime. I'm sorry if I offend anybody. But this design is by Yosh Studios, and it is life size. It is a tall guy. He's just missing his arms, but looks great. Again, this is one of those pictures you want to pull up in a large size so you can see it, but very, very good quality. And I'm sure when he's completely finished with it, it is going to be an even more awesome print. So that is it for all of our prints. Share yours at Show Off Prints channel at discord.polymaker.com, and you might be featured on the next show. So we're going to do what we do after this, and it's the same formula. We're going to go to commercial, and after that, we're going to meet our next maker. So stay tuned.
Whoa, I'd love to get into 3D printing, but I live here on the sun where the UV rays are nuts.
Wait just one moment there, strappy young chap. Have you ever heard of Polymaker ASA? Polymaker ASA is UV resistant, so it is the perfect application for printing near or around the sun.
No way, bro.
Yes way, brosif. Here, try it out.
Radical, man.
If you need a weather-resistant material, make sure you check out Polymaker's ASA.
Printing on the sun is no problem at all with Polymaker ASA.
Imagine owning some of the best songs about 3D printing this Discord has to offer. Polymaker presents 3D Printing Hits by Silverback and Little D, the best renditions of some of the greatest hits of all time. Hits like Hallelujah, Polly Smooth Criminal, All That She Wants Is Another Printer, Print Away,
There you go, print away.
Still the TD1, All About That Bag, No Stabbies, and Polyman.
It's a file tonight. We're all in the mood to see it extrude, 'cause you've got your printer tuned right.
Reserve your CD today with a special TV offer by going to polymaker.com and paying $39.99. Have your credit card ready. Seriously though, this music was a joke. Go buy some Polymaker.
And welcome back to the show, everybody. We are here to meet the next maker of the week. And this gentleman, if you guys are on the interwebs a lot, or just yesterday, last night, you may have caught him and another community member having a little bit of talk online. So we'll talk about that here shortly. So let's welcome in Mojee3D, or Corey. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Appreciate you coming on the show. I think it's perfect timing. I think you already got warmed up yesterday, kind of leading into this.
Yeah.
But real quick, before we get into that, can you tell the people a little bit about yourself, kind of who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Again, name's Corey. Mojee3D is what I'm known at on all the socials for probably the last 5 or 6 years. I got into 3D printing way back in 2009. Actually following yeah. So I actually followed up. It was a couple years late, actually. I first found out about it in 2007 after watching Adrian Boyer, who everybody knows, right?
Yep.
Godfather. He was right around, in college, and I saw this talk that he did on Pop Tech back in 2007, where he basically talked about the idea, right, of RepRap and what it was, and it bit me in 2007. But it took a number of years for me to kind of become more involved in it, and I started really getting involved with it. And the Mendel and everybody was building them and trying to build them, and the prints were awful. And then it kind of snowballed out until probably around 2011, where it was basically every part of my life, and it's been every part of my life since then. So mainly what I do is I do a lot of 3D printing education locally where I'm from, with
Awesome.
middle school kids and high school kids. Really involved with FRC for the robotics teams. My son's on the robotics team here, so we do a lot of mentoring there, where I do obviously CAD design and 3D printing. But I had been into just locally 3D printing and selling prints and everything. And then about 7 years ago, I really got into the design side of it. And I had no experience with CAD whatsoever, and dove in headfirst into Fusion 360. And then everything with sculpting and non-technical CAD drawings, Nomad Sculpt and ZBrush, and now
A little bit of everything.
yeah, and I do custom printers, building the mechanical side of it. But really lately, probably the last 3 to 5 years, I've primarily been focusing on the technical CAD design part. So I work with various people and companies with designing brackets and stuff that are printed in nylon and polycarbonate and, all the more technical filaments. I still enjoy the sculpting and the aesthetic prints. And when I first, when I first started in this, it was basically ABS, right? You had black, gray, red, blue, ABS.
Yeah, you didn't have that long ago. You did not have very many choices.
No, you were very limited, and I've seen how many different types of filament and brands of filament and colors and everything, and it's pretty amazing where we're at now. So, yeah, I've done every aspect of 3D printing, but right now we're, as you said, focusing on the Unspooled podcast, myself and Steve from Layer by Layer. So that's our kind of the primary focus right now.
Just to kind of led up to it, huh?
yeah. And it's actually an idea, you had mentioned, having that thought too. And I probably had this thought about 2.5 years ago of, I've done the printer reviews and the YouTube and Twitch and all that stuff. And, but I kind of wanted something that, involves not just 3D printing, but also the maker community, the cosplay. It doesn't really matter what you make. If you're a woodworker, but you use 3D printing to make tooling or jigs or stuff like that.
A maker's a maker.
Yeah, I wanted some type of podcast, some type of talk that included everybody, right? If 3D printing touches that industry, we talk about it and we have them on. So about 2.5 years ago, I kind of was thinking about it, and I realized I didn't want to do it by myself. I wanted it to be a
back and forth.
Yeah, a back and forth, where me and a co-host could kind of talk and then bring people into it, bring the audience into it, really get the community involved with it. So that was probably about 1.5 years ago, but it took me a while to find the right person, right? So
understandable.
Yeah, so I met Steve last 3D Printopia, first time I'd ever met him. I don't even think we had talked online anywhere. Probably run across the same comments, here and there.
Maybe seen the name or something, but just never that direct connection.
Yeah, and he was the announcer for 3D Printopia, and so we both volunteered. We were helping out, and we kind of hit it off, started talking. So fast forward, it's been 8 months, 7 months since then.
Oh yeah,
so something like that. It's coming. 6 months,
8 months, almost 9 months.
Yeah,
I
so
think 8 going on 9.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot, and actually we've talked more after 3D Printopia in the Polymaker Discord. So
pretty cool hangout, I've heard.
Yeah, it's a really good hangout, and got to meet a lot of the people that I met at 3D Printopia, and just Steve and I kind of hit it off, talked more. So when I really came to pull the trigger on it, I thought of him.
Kind of natural fit.
Yeah, so I think I broached the topic with him about 2 weeks ago.
So you've got the ball rolling pretty quickly then.
Yeah, and I had a lot of the ideas in the back of my mind, so it was pretty. And luckily, he had a very similar idea. So about a week ago, a week prior to last night, we basically started doing everything. What are we going to call it? How do we want to do it? Right down to like, what's the platform we're going to use to actually stream it? And the name of it and the logo and all this stuff just came up really quick. And we basically did it over a week. And had the first stream last night.
Like I said, especially watching it for the first time last night is the look, the graphic, just the setup, and of course, as we've talked, is the personalities. I think both you guys, great guys. You speak well. People love you. You have just a likable personality. So I think you've done right too. Man, not a problem at all. But I've had that conversation, a different conversation with multiple other people. There's a lot of content creators, and I'm not bashing any of them. They all do great at what they do, but there's it's usually one set. Like you said, you're looking to cover everything, not just a niche of custom printers or just reviews or this or that. And that's what I like about it, is that you can just open it up. You can talk about anything maker related, and that way then it's easier to digest, and it's easier for just anybody to join in and be like, oh, even if I'm not doing what they're talking about, that's kind of a cool thing to learn. Like you said, woodworking and 3D printing, like I know like stamping and stuff like that is, I might not ever do that, but it's still cool. And then again, just that conversation of two perspectives on anything is always, more heads are better than one. And yeah, just I think you guys hit it off, and I'm just surprised that nobody else has, because it is such a simple concept.
And I'm the type of guy where I've done a lot of things. I always kind of view myself as like what Adam Savage says, the generalist, where I'm 43 years old and I've done so much stuff in my life because I have to do it all, right? If I think about it, I have to do it. So when I had this idea about 2.5 years ago, I was like, I'll never do it, right? I'll never pull the trigger, and then somebody else will come up with it, and then I'll be late to the game. So I'm shocked, as you are, and again, there's so many good content creators and so many good things like this going on in the maker community. So this isn't to say anybody's doing anything wrong or not doing anything.
Like
it's
just, everybody does great with what they do.
Yeah.
And I guess, and there are, I'm not saying, of course, before anybody in the chat would say, wait, no, yes, there are other podcasts. There are 3D printer related podcasts. But as we talked is, just like Pooch, for example, Maker That Money. It's got a focus. There's a direct focus, and then it's business, talking this and that. And yes, there's a little bit it can change a little bit for each episode. And again, not knocking it. It's a great podcast, but it is. But yeah, it's nice to have just a different take on things, especially too, both you being especially you being in it for so long, Steve being in it and kind of doing that same as he's printed, he's modeled a little bit, so he's got some different outlooks on things. But no, I think it's a good mix for sure. Yeah, and that was kind of the idea of when he kind of coined or thought of the unspooled, because my description behind it was I wanted it to be something that was just all encompassing, laid back, but yet a little bit unraveled, unhinged, wild if we wanted to be, structured one day, not structured the next, just open to that I think makes it everything. Fun. Like I said, I think that'll bring in a lot more people rather than just a podcast, and that will work for some people. And but yeah, like you said, it's just that you can change it up. That it's your guys' to do with what you want with it. You'll see what works, and you'll do an episode, and maybe you'll get some negative feedback, like, okay, maybe we don't do that again.
And
you can figure it out as you go.
We've talked. I mean, we're very, we're both very positive, outgoing people, but we're open to that, right? Constructive criticism is what makes things better. So we as filament customers have critiqued filament manufacturers for years, and if we do that in a respectful way, it hopefully makes you guys better. It makes us better at articulating the things that we want, or the things that we're looking for. So I think any type of community involvement, and you guys, that's one thing that I've always liked about Polymaker, and I was super excited when you asked me to do this, because I'm my original background, long before I ever got into 3D printing, I worked in marketing for 15 years. And I always saw a lot of companies that were just not open to anything, right? They just weren't, they just didn't want to hear it. They'd get a focus.
Just shut up.
They'd get a focus group together, and then they'd get a bunch, and they only listened to the positive, right? They only wanted to hear what they were doing well. So I want everything. I would like everything in the 3D printing community and the maker community to just be open to all of that, right? Like we may have different ideas or a difference of opinion, but that's okay. As long as we can deliver and articulate those positively. Nobody's right or nobody's wrong. It's just a matter of perspective.
That's what I've always said with I'll debate as long as I know information about the topic. I'll debate anybody, but it'll always, on my end, it'll always be respectful. It's never I know what's best, you're wrong, I'm right. And then that's what we
Yeah.
have to see is, and you know what, maybe in a debate somebody is a bit more right. You still, you can level head, come to a, you know, whether it be a middle meeting ground, or even, sometimes you're just not going to sway somebody, and that's maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily needs to be the intent, but it's being respectful. And yeah, you
Yeah.
can debate anything, and that's where I think you know, we've talked about it, you know, internally and with community, is we've made jabs at ourselves. You know, our co-PE release, maybe not
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
just a few mistakes made there. But we're learning, and that's the
Yeah.
thing is, you know, maybe we have some new stuff coming out. I can tell you, anything that new comes out, it's got a lot better focus on providing that information to people, and being as transparent with everything that we can, so it's not confusing, it's more digestible, and you know what it is. Like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, they're releasing X, and X does this is what X is for. Maybe I'll use X, maybe I won't, and that's fine. But yeah, like I said, and that's the thing I think every company needs to do is especially with the feedback, is, you know, understand it, you know, look into it, research it, and just accept it. If it's a mistake, it's a mistake. You know,
Yeah.
anybody and everybody in the sun is going to make a mistake. Doesn't matter how old the company is, how big it is, how much money they have. There's mistakes, but it's yeah, it's just that's what I've always liked about Polymaker. Not to tout us out in this interview, but is that it's always been so community oriented, and taking that feedback and really legitly listening to people's feedback. And I think with you guys doing Unspooled, that gives you a really good platform to not just to speak your mind and say, hey, you know, making demands by any means, because I know you and Steve don't have that personality, but it gives you a you know, pedestal to talk about something, or, you know, something you're passionate about, but also, you know, what do I want to say, translate kind of what the community's saying. Like, hey, we're part of that community, we've seen this and this and this talked about, hey, is there something we can do with this? So it's definitely a cool thing that I think you guys will both do great with, for sure.
Yeah, and whether it's Mojee3D or Unspooled or anything that I'm doing, it's so the Mojee3D is kind of the education side of it, where I work with a lot of, you know, kids. I work with a lot of adults too that are new to 3D printing, and I always just tell them, like, you know, ask questions, ask 1,000 questions, and I want Steve and I want Unspooled to be like that too, right? Whether you're a seasoned 3D printing veteran maker in the chat, or you're never touched a 3D printer in your life, we want you to ask 1,000 questions, right? I've been in
Yep.
3D printing for a very long time, but I don't know it all, right? And I learn something new every single
Things
day.
change every single day.
Yeah, I learned something the other day from somebody who has been in 3D printing for a couple of years, and I was like, I didn't know that, right? So I learned from the kids that I work with. I work with learn from all the adults. So I just want it's the Unspooled will be that open and all encompassing, and just everybody has a
positive.
voice. And yeah, and Steve and I actually talked, where, like, you know, where Unspooled goes, and how it evolves over time. We want it to be viewer driven, right? Viewer and guest driven. So
Yep.
you know, obviously we as the host have input too, but we want it to be we want to make sure that we do what the viewers and the guests that we have on that are willing to come talk with us, what they want to see, what they want to hear, how they want it
Yep.
structured, and we want to hear that feedback, because
Yeah, I think that's nice. Yeah, with you guys just starting up, is that's the ideal way, because we do have an amazing community. You know, 3D printing in a whole has an amazing community, and especially right off the rip of just being open, like, hey, not coming into it of, hey, this is the format we got, there's no change in it, this is what we're doing, like it or love it. And is, yeah, like you said, be open, and you can adjust for that. And then of course you guys got the experience behind you to talk stuff, whether it be technical stuff or fun stuff, or whatever might be going on in the crazy world that is 3D printing.
Yeah, there's so many awesome things going, that it's just fun to be able to, you know, sit for an hour and a half and talk about it, you know. So
now talking about 3D printing, and then of course, you know, to go back to your start of things, what was your first printer? So back then, whatever it is, half the people watching this probably have no idea what it is.
So from 2009 ish 2010, it was the Mendel, right? Trying to build it, trying to build it, and just trying to get it to squirt plastic,
do
right?
something.
Like, yeah, that was it. Because I mean, even to the point where, like, you know, the main boards weren't just readily available, right? You couldn't just go on Amazon or
Buy it
even
for
AliExpress at the
$30.
time, and yeah, buy them. So yeah, it was just trying to piece together enough threaded rod and aluminum beds that were covered in Kapton tape,
Yeah.
and not enough to squirt plastic. After that, I've had just about every printer there is to buy.
Anything and everything.
Yeah. One that came out, so the printer bot was pretty early on. One of the printer bots, I had a couple different ones of those. The maker bot, the original like wood, Ultimaker.
The wood one, yeah.
Yeah. And then it just snowballed, and I can't even remember what time frame it was, somewhere around 2016 or between 2016 and 18, when the Ender 3 came out, right? And you could just buy a printer in a box, take it out, and slap the
And
gantry on
for
it,
the most
and you were
part
good
ready
to
to
go.
go.
Yeah. So for me in that time, something like the new gen or the next gen, I've heard people refer to them, what we have now, the Bamboos, the Flash Forges, the Prusas, the Solvals, I mean, that was unheard of, right? Like to take a fully assembled box printer out of a box and just
Plug it
with
in
a,
and it
with a good
calibrates
slicer,
itself, and
yeah, and just print, that was unheard of, right? Like, I mean, half the
Some-
time early on, we were just trying to print an ABS 20 by 20 cube,
cute.
and it came out looking like a piece of bubble gum, right? Like it was awful. And it's amazing where it is now.
Now going from your old printers, of course, because though I guess first off, with all the old ones that you did do, was there ever a time during that you got so frustrated that you took a break from it, or have you always just had that kind of determined personality?
No, I would like to say yes, but no. There were breaks. There were times I remember, right around the time my son was born, I got the Monoprice Select Mini and the Delta. Those came out, and it was like, oh, a really cool small printer that you could just like take anywhere you want. And those had some issues early on, and so I remember that one specifically. It was the smallest printer I had at the time, and I got so frustrated with it that probably those two printers alone probably kicked in like an 8-month hiatus of just like I've had enough.
I'm done.
But I'm always back to it. So I'm a generalist, so I've done a lot of things, and I find something new and I do it and then move
Like
on
a
and do
jack of
something
all
else.
trades.
But the one thing, and even my wife says, the one thing that has always stuck is just 3D printing, right? So since 2007, that's kind of, if anybody in my immediate family or anybody that knows me personally, locally, or any of my friends or family, if you ask them who he is, they're going to say he 3D prints.
That's
right?
the 3D
Like,
printing guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure, especially getting that early of a start is as soon as anybody learned what you did, because
Yeah.
it's even today, it's still, some people are just like, well, what's 3D printing? What is it? So I can only imagine 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny. I
like,
mean,
what is it?
for us that are in it, I mean, even people that have been in it for a couple of years, at a certain point, you kind of have this view that like everybody knows what it is, everybody has done it, everybody's familiar with it, it's nothing new. And I still today find people who come over my house or come into the shop or I talk to out and about, and we talk about 3D printing, and I show them videos and I show them, prints that I've done. And a lot of people think it's magic, right? They're like,
Yeah.
what? I thought that
still
was
don't get
only
it.
in, I had one guy say, an older gentleman, he said, oh, I thought that was only in sci-fi movies, like there's still people out there that just don't understand it and are blown away that it works, and a lot of people that even are familiar with it, they're thinking of like the older style stuff, right? Like brittle PLA prints that when you put them in their hand, they just crumble.
Something where they ran across at one point, and that's kind of set in their mind that that's what 3D printing has been for the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
It's advanced a little bit.
Yeah, and we've had amazing advancements in the mechanical and the electrical side of it. But really, for someone like me who's been in it a while, for me, the biggest advancement in 3D printing has been on the material science side, right? The filament, the stuff that the consumable stuff we're printing with, like that has made it significantly better than what it was, you know,
Yeah,
10
like you said,
years
yeah,
ago.
not just colors and surface effects, but just material, just different types of material, what they do, ESD material.
Yeah.
I always use the PPS that we have now, just being, even to me, still doesn't make sense. I get the science behind it. I've been explained it, but it
Yeah.
still doesn't make sense. And trying to explain that to somebody that doesn't know, that so it's got metal. No, then why does it sound like metal? It's just very dense. Yeah, but it's got metal in it. Like, no, it doesn't. I promise you.
Yeah, if I could go back in time and show my 2010 self a bell that I 3D printed that rings and makes noise, I wouldn't have believed it, right? Like, unless you see it. It's stuff like that in the filament and in the material side of it that has just advanced so much that 3D printing is when, again, early on, 3D printing wasn't a final product, right? Like you printed molds, or you printed prototype parts, or you printed
they weren't a finished product.
Yeah, back then you weren't printing stuff and then putting in a box and selling it to people, you know, as a finished product. So, you know, and that changed a number of years ago. But again, that was just something that kind of exploded in the community, where it's like, oh my God, I can print a finished product in my bedroom, right? As a 14-year-old kid in middle, you know, in high school. And that's the stuff that gets me excited, right? Like the kid who is 15 years old and can think of an idea, CAD it, whether it's Tinkercad or they learn Fusion or they learn Onshape. All the kids that are in our FRC on our team, shout out to 4564 Orange Crush, great team. You know, they learn Onshape. So if they have an idea, not just for the robot, but for a product, they can design it in Onshape and then print it and have a product. And then that's the type of stuff that excites me.
I think because I always say is when I talk to people about 3D printing is, obviously it's cool. It is awesome when somebody can design something and then print it and have that physical piece. But it does so many things of getting the mind working, thinking in different ways, figuring out ways to fix things in different ways. Because now, you know, now it's not oh, I have to buy this part to fix this. Now it's, how can I develop a part that's easier to print, that I can put on there? I can just print it here at home and fix it. But then along with that is, like you said, is to be able to box it up and sell it. As a 13-year-old, being an entrepreneur, whether it be you're doing the dragons and you're capitalizing on whatever's, you know, hot at the moment, or you just find that one niche thing. It takes just one idea to be like, wow, that's a simple idea, nobody's thought of it, but I'm the one that did, and here you go, here's the part. And I mean, I've seen several kids, of course, being in the community now, a lot more in depth now, is selling just crazy stuff and just coming up, well, I came up with this idea. Like, how did nobody else come up with this idea? Like, it's so simple.
Or someone had that idea but just didn't have the means to make it, right? They didn't have, they weren't into 3D
or the
printing.
motivation. So to just say, I think it pushes them in a lot of different ways, not just to print fun stuff and, you know, fidgets and all that stuff, but no, and it's and we're still, I don't say infancy, but we're still in the incline, and it's still becoming a more accessible product for so many more people. I mean, you've seen all the trends as they went, and now it's, compared to what you started with compared to now, like you said, is we can unbox it and plug it in and register the phone app and then get to go.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, as a tinkerer and a maker like me, I often get bored with that, right? Like I sometimes I get frustrated with the out of the box, the tools, right? Now we have printers that are just tools. It's like, you know, it's like a DeWalt chop saw that I buy from Lowe's. And sometimes a person like me, I'm like, oh man, like I want to upgrade it. I want to tinker with it. I want to, so but I like that I also like that the community, and there's a big controversy thing behind with all of this, but I like that the vast majority of the 3D printing community is open. You have those, right? You have those printers that you can just pull out of the box, use as a tool. I have tons of them sitting right over there, and I can do that. But I can also have the printers that I can play with, right? That I can tinker with, that I can spend hundreds and hundreds of hours on in my I always tell people all the time, like, I literally have the best wife in the world, because She has been okay with the only vice I have is coffee and 3D printing. And she's been fine with both. So it's I
that's
like
called tolerance, and my wife has it very much so too. It takes a
yeah,
lot to be
and
with this guy.
you know, all of our late night streams and stuff and travels to other events
Yep.
and you know, but I find that it's 3D printing is just it it has a little bit of everybody for everybody, right? Like it doesn't matter what you're doing. Like I run into people that are woodworkers that have an X1C or a Creality machine or something in, and they're printing jigs and tools. Like they could care less about 3D printing really. They just, but they're using it, right? They
To
know
them,
it,
it's
they know how to
100%.
do it.
It's an additional tool in the woodworking.
Yeah, you know,
Job.
they cat up a jig or they cat up a tool, they cat up a part, um, and they're using it. And then, you know, I've seen people using it in culinary arts and some industries, medical and aeronautics and all kinds of stuff, you know, where
Mhm.
one company is printing like replacement for planes that they're retrofitting and redoing. On the side of these seats are these plastic parts that used to be injection molded in ABS. Well, those things aren't available anymore. Or if they are available,
Super
they're
expensive.
$1,800 for a plastic part this big.
Supply and
And
demand.
yeah, and they're 8 months out, right? You can't. It takes you 8 months to get it, and they're now employing people that 3D print and can CAD it, and they're printing those parts. You know, and it's just
Way
and they're
cheaper,
and these parts are
faster.
yeah, and these parts are not just finished parts. These parts are like, you know, being approved by whoever needs to approve a
Safety
part to be on
standards,
a
FAA.
plane. You know, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Don't pretend to know anything about that, but
But a
you
plane,
know,
I'm
it's
sure, has
just
lots of regulations on every single piece that goes
yeah,
into it. You know,
yeah,
a
like
latch to a door.
yeah, like one of the guys told me that there's a bolt, right, that is part of the seat, and it's just like an M8 by 16, you know, just a bolt, and it's like $80 for the bolt, right? And the only reason why it's that expensive is because of whoever manufactures that bolt, all the steps that it has to go through in order to be approved to be used on that plane, and it's
That's where
expensive.
that extra money. Yep.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I like where we're headed with it, and I think anybody that's been in 3D printing for a long time or is going to be in 3D printing in the future, you've got a lot to look forward to. You know, I think you said it. We're still kind of in the upward trajectory of what we're going to see.
Oh yeah.
Things like the Bond Tech Index, which blew people's mind.
Excited. Yep.
That is, I think I made a post about it on X that I'm losing sleep about that, right? Because I have dreams that I need to
I
have that.
want one.
And every time they post something saying like, hey, what do you want to hear next about this? All I can think and say is, I don't want to hear anything other
I
than
just want it.
when I can buy it, right?
Yeah.
Like when I can buy it and how quick I'm going to get it.
I want to hear what my tracking number is.
Yeah. So it's just.
That's what I've said about that is I've always toyed with the idea of doing a Voron. I have yet to build a Voron.
Yeah.
I am a tinkerer. I love to tinker and stuff, but just haven't got around to it. But I've made the comment. If that's what it seems to be, and I've seen it in person at Wrap and everything, and yeah, I trust Bondtech. If it comes out, and especially at the price point and everything else, that might be that final, push to like build a Voron, because now I can build a Voron and relatively, I know there's still a lot to it, but easily make it a tool changer. I don't have to buy all these different tools and set up this and that. I can just buy 9 nozzles or whatever they consider them, and then the tool head assembly. Yeah, it's I can't wait for that. It's going to be nice.
Yeah, and we briefly talked about it on the stream last night on Unspooled about it. Is that it I think stuff like that, it makes there's nothing as far as multicolor or multi-material printing. There's nothing more efficient than a tool changer, right? You can have AMSs and CMSs and box turtles and all the awesome things that we have that are great, and I love them all, but there's just nothing as efficient as tool changing. And when you have a tool changer like this that is even more efficient, where it can heat between nozzles and bring them up to temperature in 3 seconds.
4 seconds.
Yeah, with inductive heating, it's just that type of stuff. It gives it a lower level, a lower entry point for people to get into tool
Absolutely.
changes, right? That
Yep.
can't afford a Prusa XL, or don't want to build a Voron for various reasons, you know, and don't want to have to go through that. But maybe now they might try to build a Voron because now they can put that on it. You know, it's just it's that type of stuff that's really fun, and I love to see. So,
Oh, yeah, and I think that, as we talked about too, that whole upward trajectory is the more people get into 3D printing, the more more things we get across the board, whether it be tools, add-ons, modifications, models. How many more designers have been born out of nowhere in the
Yep.
last couple years, just because hey, they got into 3D printing, it was kind of fun, but I want to make my own stuff. And then now, some that have had no skill and just hopped right into it, some that have had some skill and then just converted that into CAD, into now I'm making organic models and things like that. It's just going to keep growing.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I've been waiting for years, and it's come out a little bit, but it's been slow to think, is actual companies of products that we're buying, that every consumer is buying, making their consumable parts, or their parts that are plastic that could break or get lost, printable, right? Download an
Yeah.
STL and print it. And Philips is doing it now, right? Philips just announced they're,
Yes,
putting all
the
their
add-ons.
parts on
Actually,
printable.
did that on the news headlines.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, and that is the type of stuff that you want to see, like the Jets. I 5-6 years ago said I want to see the Jetsons, right? I want to see everybody have a workable printer in their house where something breaks,
They're
or
not apart.
they lose the buzzing attachment on their beard trimmer, and they hit a button and it prints it out, where you're not having to order it or source it or something. You can just
Wait
make it in
for
your
it.
house,
Yeah.
and doesn't mean that you still couldn't order it and buy it, but it's, if you want to, it's there, right? And you don't have to CAD it, because something like that tiny little piece, that you would put on that Norelco, or that Philips beard trimmer, that's not an easy thing to model, right? Like,
The
that's not something.
tolerances, make sure it snaps into place, and the
Yeah, so it's not
size and
a,
everything else. Yeah.
yeah, that's something that if you're going to model that, you're going to have some experience with it,
Yeah.
or you're going to fumble with it and you're going to print 17 of them before you ever get the one to fit.
Or you're gonna
So
design it. It's gonna have a weak spot, and when you go to trim, it's gonna snap, and then you're just gonna go. Zzz.
exactly, right? So it to have one that they have done, and the engineers that built this thing have done, and they've just put it out, and it's right to the tolerances, and it's available. You can download it, print it on your Prusa MK4, and it just snaps right on. That is really cool.
Amazing. Yep.
So that's what the stuff, again, that I get really excited about is 3D printing being a part of the everyday life, of anybody who can just
Yeah,
utilize it.
they keep decreasing the years, and I think when I first started, I want to say it was 7 to 10 years that 3D printers could become an appliance, and it was always
Yep.
could. And then
Yep.
as we got closer and closer, it's like actually we're thinking more like 5 to 6 years, and it will be. And I think now I don't even know what the updated range is, but I know it's less and less, as that it's going to be an appliance. It's going to be like your washer, your dryer. And will everybody have them? No. But does everybody have a air fryer? No. They should.
Yep.
If you don't, you're weird.
They should, yes. Air fryer is the best
But
thing
it's
I
just one
ever
of those
bought.
things, is it'll be an appliance, and a majority, yes, especially when it gets to that point, is we're pretty close to full turnkey. There's still a little bit of things to mess with,
Yep.
but it's just going to get better. I mean, we now have the companies that are now going back and forth of who can do the fastest, who can do the biggest, who can do this and that. And I think as that starts to settle down, and they're not going for the biggest or the fastest, what else do we got? Hey, let's go completely untouched, ready to print, and you just send it. You don't have to slice it, nothing. It's going to get there, I think, sooner than we realize.
Yeah, and I still think we're a few years away from like the appliance level
Yeah.
stuff. But we're way close, like you said, we're way closer than we've ever been. Um, if we ever do get to that level, another thing that I would like to see is, people that are mechanical, that are tinkerers, that know this stuff and can fix them, can now service them, right? So, my next door neighbor who buys a 3D printer as an appliance for the first time ever, and now it's broken and they can't fix it. I don't want them to just be another appliance that they throw away and buy
Buy
a new
another
one.
one, yep.
I'd like to see a whole industry of 3D printer mechanics, right? You call someone, they come and they repair it.
Well, that's how many of us are already in that position, you know, just through people that know us of, hey,
Yeah.
I got this 3D printer last year and it's doing this. Can you come fix it? Like, I don't know how many I've repaired of just, and sometimes they're simple, but
Yeah.
it's having that knowledge. But like you said, yeah, the more and more they're out there, you know, people, a lot more people, I think, especially to this point now, are wanting to get a printer that just prints. So when it doesn't, they don't want to look it up. They don't want to figure out what parts to get. They want somebody else to either fix it or, like you said, replace it. I'll just buy another one. But
Yeah.
you know, it's going to get to that point, I think, especially as you know, as they become more turnkey and just kind of, you know, self-printing for the most part. I think people will keep them longer term. They're not going to look necessarily to try to buy one to replace it unless there's some other new feature they want. But yeah, we're going to need service because, I mean, right now, Bamboo, of course, is, you know, huge. Have you heard of any Bamboo service centers in the U.S.?
Nope.
I haven't. And there's definitely, they're great printers, but they do break, and sometimes they break a lot or break big in a big way. So yeah, I think before long we will definitely see those.
Yeah, I mean, anything that heats up and moves that fast is going to break and wear out over time. So, you know, I don't want to see it get to a point where a 3D printer just becomes, you know, the appliance that someone throws away. We've got enough of that, you know.
Yeah, look at the 2D printers. Now they're so cheap. You can buy a printer for the price of ink. So
yeah, half the time now, once you buy a printer from Walmart, and then it's cheaper to buy a new printer with ink than it is to buy the ink. You know,
yeah, especially if you're not printing a lot, I mean, it's a lot of times for a lot of people, it's cheaper that way. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then it just, like you said, creates more e-waste, everything else. And it's just like, let's not get to that point. Let's repurpose. And of course, like the Ender 3 being such a big thing, is how many things has that been repurposed into, whether it be, you know, spool rewinders, the recreator,
the recreators,
other printers, and it's just all the stuff. So yeah, hopefully we see that more, but well, time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, I've used Ender 3 extrusions for all kinds of strange stuff. You go.
So now, with you being in it so long, what has been your max at one time printer fleet that you had at home?
37.
37. Now, then actually going back on the originals, the Mandela and stuff. What is the oldest printer that you still have, whether it works or not, that you just still retained? Because I know a lot of people retain there first.
Printer bot. And actually one of my original Ultimaker. I just recently got rid of that and then kind of shed a tear. Even though I never used it. So my other idea is that, and I shouldn't say this out loud because someone's probably going to end up doing it, but I've always thought that there should be like an additive manufacturing or 3D printing museum, right? Because every printer from the earliest makeshift thing to now, right? A timeline of the physical printers. So of all the printers I've had over the years, I wish that I had saved one of all of them, so that I could have, you know, somewhere up here in Maine, you know, a 3D printer Hall of Fame or museum.
Like you said, yeah, just the timeline of seeing from like this is first, second, third, and that's. I'm glad that I didn't start as early as you did, because I have a problem getting rid of things. I get a sentimental attachment to things. I would have way more printers than I have now, which is still an abundance of printers.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten rid of a printer where at some point I wasn't like, oh, I wish I kept that either for sentimental value or some museum thought idea, or you know, the Snapmaker J1S that I got rid of, and then now I wish I had it. You know, so there's always something where you get rid of and then you wish you didn't. But
well, like I said, it sits around for so long, like I'm not using it, and then you get rid of it, and like, oh, you know what, I just thought of an idea I could have used that for.
Yeah. So, but it's I think I've heard it coined. I don't know who coined it, but I've heard it a lot. You know, the fastest printer is more printers, and that's true.
Logical.
Right? So,
that's not wrong.
No. So if you that's kind of what I've done is when you have a fleet of printers, you can print quick, so you can
print
prototype
a lot and print quick. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you could reiterate prototyping quickly, and so.
And now with the, of course, we talked about the index, and Yeah, that's obviously one of the future things that you're most excited about. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you're looking forward to in the industry, whether it be this year or in the next year or 2 years, or just something that you would you necessarily maybe haven't seen, but you would love to see come to 3D printing or an advancement?
I like I said, I think it goes in line with what Index is I would like to see people have access to a tool changer at a lower entry point, which I think Index is going to fix that. I'd like to see more, not hopefully not just carbon copies of that, but I'd like to see more innovation or other companies coming out with tool changers that are of a price that is more obtainable for a lot of people. So, and I've taught, we've done, social media posts and polls about this of like where that is for you, right? Like, where does a printer get to where it's beyond your ability to pick it up? Is that $800, $1,000, $1,500, $2,500? And obviously that's different for everybody, but I'd like to see just a out of the box turnkey tool changer to be as low as possible. If somebody could get that in the $1,000 to $1,500 range, that would be awesome. And then
I've heard some insider news that I can't necessarily share, but I think there's one company that's looking to do so. I mean, there's a lot of companies that are doing tool changers that are Kickstarters, things like that, that are fair price. They have to prove themselves, but I think more coming, and nothing against the new startups, because obviously Bamboo was a startup and it blew out of the water.
Starts somewhere.
But I think what you're saying too is with that affordable, not super overpriced, but especially we can get a good name behind it, somebody that's been into that industry, that's had printers, had successful printers, and not just a Bamboo. I love Bamboo, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, so do I.
It'd be great if Bamboo did a tool changer. But we haven't got that yet. But
we were hoping, but
but I think there's some stuff on the horizon that I'm aware of. Hopefully, still be this year. So we'll have to wait and see. And ideally, they work out all the bugs and it becomes again as close to turnkey as possible, especially with tool changer. I know that adds a whole another slew of problems and troubleshooting. But I think there's enough people working on it and wanting to be kind of that first to be into the affordable tool changer. Hopefully we just get multiple, products this year. But
and the other part that I would like to see is the automation part of it, right? So you're starting to see a lot of like community built setups that can automatically change the bed, right? There's one for the A1 Mini, where it can just swap the plates out, right? Now, not something where it's like Mosaic, where you have a giant, or the setup with Prusa where you have robotic arms pulling parts and plates off. The arrays and stuff like that. But just it's kind of a neat idea. It's basically like a more mechanical belt printer, right? Like belt printers are supposed to just be able to pump out part after part after
I've
part.
seen a couple projects actually just today. I came across a post of a gentleman that did use some aluminum plates, but then it was plastic covers and everything for a robotic arm. It could be easily built and programmed to open a door to the Bamboo, take a print off of it, put it over somewhere, close the door, and it's like, there we go. Okay. And I think again, this is where it comes with a lot more people having ideas and being able to build it, and especially even the electronics themselves, all the ESP boards and Arduinos and things like that, of more people learning how to use those and just having that code available. Like, oh hey, here's the print files. Here's the programming. Just put it on an SD card, pop it into this, and now you got a working robot arm. And I think that's going to be another thing we'll see a lot of, just that innovation, just in DIY stuff.
We kind of years ago we started that where when we were all doing a print and then editing the G code to just knock the print off the bed right after it finished. Print, knock the print off the bed, drop it in a bucket, and then print again. But that there was a lot of manual trial and error with that. But it worked. But it was also dependent on the part you were printing. If you had something with a massive base stuck to the bed, you weren't going to knock it off.
You're not knocking it off.
Yeah. But if you had a long cylindrical part that had a small base, you could just knock it off and print again. But yeah, it's something at the consumer level that is more automated. that could allow someone that had a finished product that just needed to have those pump out nonstop
The mass production, yeah,
and
just
not
set it and
have
forget
to
it.
have 60 X1Cs, something like that. So
Although that would be nice, but hopefully your idea, facilitates
Yeah.
enough profit to do so. But
yeah, and farms are great. I have a small farm, and they're wonderful. But to have one printer that could just continually pump out parts and just run 24/7 would be
ideal.
nice, So yeah, automation, and then something in a lower end tool changer is what I'd like to see. And there's I've probably thought of 1,000 ideas of things that I'd like to see, and I'll probably think of something the second we're off of this call.
Yeah, that's how it always
But,
is.
yeah.
Okay, well, we're coming up to the end here, so what I like to
Yeah.
do is end it with some fun rapid fire questions.
Sure.
There's some in depth where you got to search your soul for, but we start off with the
good.
same two questions. First one being, and I iterate every time, doesn't have to be Polymaker. If Polymaker is not your answer, it's okay. My feelings won't be hurt too much. But what's your favorite filament color or surface effect? Like what's your go-to favorite filament?
So I'm a technical printer, so I print technical parts that are strong. My favorite filament of all is a nylon or a nylon CF. I love all carbon fiber and glass filled
The way they have the
versions of
finished
everything.
look.
Yeah. I like the finished look. There's obviously some difference of opinion of whether that adds strength or doesn't, or reduces strength. I'll let you guys test that for yourself.
Yeah. Depends on the use case. What you're
but
printing. If it works,
if I had to pick one, probably PETG CF.
There you go. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Good answer. And then, obviously black. That's, I don't think anybody does anybody make a color?
So there are some colored
GCFs.
CF. Yep.
I think no, I don't remember what I got. Some pack from Bamboo Lab way back from being a Kickstarter. And
yeah, they do make
with it.
Yeah, they make like a purple and a blue and a green and
red.
yellow, something like that. Yeah, kind of the standard rainbow colors. But
okay, well, the second question is going to be, out of everything you've printed, and you've been in it long, so this might be hard, what has been the one print that you're most proud of?
Oh man, that's tough. So probably I designed and printed a bracket for a marine application for a door, right? So this is a door on a boat, marine application that is a sealed door. They previously had these stainless steel brackets that held this door that came on and off. Brackets were really expensive. I'll make this as short as I can. Brackets were really expensive. They were hard to get. They took a long time for them to get. So I worked with a company to redesign them, to make them printable, and to make them strong. We originally printed them out of ABS, then ASA. Now they are polycarbonate, and that's probably the one I'm the most proud of. Yeah.
There you go. Okay, and then next question, Mojee. Where's it come from?
I knew you were going to ask this question. So it's actually kind of funny. So when my son was born, when he was about 3 years old, the movie Big Hero 6 came out. Baymax, all that. So the funny that there was a cat in that movie, and my son would call it Mojee, right? So my wife and I never really thought anything about it. We found out years after the movie came out, 2 or 3 years after, that the cat's name wasn't Mojee, it was Mochi, right? Like the Japanese
mochi,
ice cream.
Yeah,
the fondant ice cream. So that was kind of a running joke, even though we would watch the show, we would watch the movie, and we would still call the cat Mojee. Right? So when years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, when I was developing a 3D print, an online 3D printing presence, everybody comes up with a name, right? So we came up with Mojee3D, and didn't go with MOJI because it was more prevalent. So I was just kind of you know, the how Britney's spelt like 14 different ways.
Yep.
I just
You had
thought
to
it
take
was
the different
different.
spelling. That way you stood out.
Yeah.
You know, I think it works. And
I was at the
easily
time I
pronounced.
was at the time I was into Jeeps. So
Oh, right
actually
there,
the
yeah.
first so somebody actually asked me how to pronounce Moji one time, and I said Mojeep without the P. So
There
yeah,
you go.
that's
That's what
it.
I always had to do with my original screen name was Nightcore. And
Yeah.
most people, if I don't spell it out, I just tell them, you know, because they're like Nightcore minus the T. There's no T.
Yeah.
Oh, and like the half time they're just confused. Like, what does it mean? It's like it doesn't mean anything. There's a story, but that's for
Yeah.
another time. But
Yeah.
the last question I have: who would you say? And I guess I don't know if this is what you consider yourself, but who would you say that the best co-host or co-streaming partner in the world currently is?
Oh, that's easy, right? Steve, Layer by Layer. If
There you
anybody
go.
that is watching this hasn't followed Steve, follow him, because 3D printing aside, he's just a cool dude.
Absolutely. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's I figured I'd give him a shout out. Love Steve, and
Yeah,
you know,
he's
he's
great.
of course a big part of the Unspooled. So real quick, I'll give you the stage here to shout out, you know, your own website, your socials. Where can people watch Unspooled and when? Anything
Yep.
you want to put out there where they can find you, follow you, and see what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm available on every social platform there is. Mojee3D on all of them. If you go to
Easy.
mojee3d.com, that just goes to my link tree where everything is. X is probably where I'm the most active as far as social media goes. Discord. You can watch the Unspooled podcast with me and Steve from Layer by Layer every Tuesday night from 8 to 9:30 on Twitch.
And that's Eastern Standard.
After that is Eastern Standard. Yep.
Oh.
We did not put that on the post the first time.
I messaged
we
him
have
like, you might want to
corrected
do
that.
EST on the back on the back end of that.
Yeah. So again, every Tuesday night, 8 to 9:30 on Twitch. If you're not a Twitch user and you don't want to sign up in your YouTube, we do upload those the VODs the following day. So I uploaded it actually just before this. So it will also be available on both Layer by Layer and Mojee3D's YouTube. So whether you follow him or me or both, you can watch it either place.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Always nice talking with you, and I look forward to more and more episodes of Unspooled. I definitely enjoyed the first one, so I'm sure they're just going to get better and better. So appreciate you coming on the show. Nice talking with you.
Appreciate it.
And I'm sure I'll see you around.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Hey, you too. See ya.
Bye, guys.
And there you guys have it. Another maker in another episode in another week. I've lost count. I don't know where we're at. We're maybe in the 60s. I don't know. But Mojee3D or Corey, one half of the Unspooled podcast, other half being Layer by Layer Steve. Again, really, I wasn't saying this just because he was on the camera with me. Corey's a great guy. Steve's a great guy. Great personalities to put together for a podcast. They're enjoyable to listen to watch, whatever your preference is. And again, like I said, it was a really, I think, in my opinion, it was a successful first episode. So it's gonna be nice to see him grow. So catch him now. That way you can be like, hey, I was one of the originals. You guys remember me? That way, when they're big and famous, they're Hollywood stars, you'll be like, hey, I know that guy. I chatted with him. I met him at a rap festival. But again, that's Unspooled, Layer by Layer, LayerXLayer on Twitch and YouTube, and then of course Mojee3D, as you've seen on the screen there. Again, on Twitch and YouTube. Go give them both a follow. Both well-deserving, good guys. So we also have other projects. That's not our project. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. That is their project. Polymaker did not create it. we're definitely there to watch and see it grow. But Polymaker does have some projects also going on, such as Polymaker figurines. That is !PMF in the chat, and that'll give you a link to all the socials, the TikToks, the Instagrams, etc. And that's led by Anshua Dimensions, and he designs, well, he prints multicolor models of Pokemon. I think we're over halfway through the version 2. I'm not part of it. He is through version halfway through version 2. He has all first 151 available already on Maker World. Download for free. As he releases every video, that model then becomes available to download also. And then we have Polymaker Education, and that's !PME. and that is led by Create6Brit, doing the same thing, just educational prints. Lately, I've been doing some dinosaurs. I was a huge fan of dinosaurs growing up. I'm sure many of you out there have kids that were. Those are the same. As she releases those videos talking about that dinosaur, that model then becomes available for free to download and print as you wish to use for yourself, for the shelf, for the desk, or just for education of any form that you desire. So definitely go follow her across, again, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, etc. Then we have Polymaker Lab, led by Sean, our very own Sean Aranda. That is !PML, and he does TikTok episodes, I think 3 times a week, where it's tips, tricks, troubleshooting of anything 3D printer related. I always say, whether you've had the problem or you're gonna have the problem, it's easy to digest bits of information that you can learn and remember or come back to. He does it in fun ways. Sean's always got a fun energy about him, great camera presence, much better than my own. But go check him out. Definitely a fun guy to watch. And then lastly, we have !IPC, and that is In Printing Color, hosted by Pezliz over at twitch.tv/Pezliz. And that is every Wednesday, as long as there's not travel. I think there was one this week. So there was one this week. I think she'll be back in time for another next week. But either way, go follow her, and you'll see her whole stream episode. She does a lot of different streams. So we sponsor the In Printing Color stream every Wednesday, where she goes over new print or new colors, new filament, etc. She was supposed to get, well, I think it was a delayed shipment, but she's got some new stuff that maybe she can talk about soon. So don't nag her too much, because she can't say much. But there's some new stuff coming. I always say it. There actually is. Give it about 2-ish weeks, and you guys might be seeing something new. I think you're gonna love it. I can't talk any more about it. There's also not a giveaway, as you see. There's probably many of you typing "I am awesome" in chat. You have to learn, if the ticker's not there, there's probably not a giveaway. I am traveling for Rocky Mountain Rep. So if you're watching this, I really hope that you're out there, that you can make it. If you are, make sure to come say hi. I'm somewhat approachable. I've only bit three. I've only bit 3 people. 3 people at Rep events. They've never had to go to the hospital. One did have to get a tetanus shot. We're not talking about that. We settled outside of court. But no, come say hi. The whole team's going to be there. We're going to have Nick, myself, Pete, Tiffany, Chase, and Yuli, which you might not know those guys. They're more wholesale and marketing, but all around great people. All of them will definitely enjoy you to come say hi, tell them how much you love Polymaker, or if you don't, that's fine too. You can tell us, and then we'll try to fix what you don't like about it. But again, well, that'll be this Saturday and Sunday at Loveland, Colorado. If you're in the area, you can make it. I'd love to see you by the booth. I'll be walking around too. Don't hesitate to stop me. So I'll be probably running like a chicken with my head cut off, but I love meeting everybody, re-meeting people, seeing the familiar faces and people that I don't. Don't be offended if I don't know your name or don't recognize your name, because there's a lot of names. Just let me know, hey, I'm Joel, or I'm Nikor in Discord. That might spark something in there. But either way, can't wait to see you all there. It's going to be a fun time. And then we'll be back next week. Tuesday, possibly a stream live from Houston. We'll see. Keep your eyes out. Bang that notification bell, etc. And then if we go live, you'll see it. So if I don't see you next Saturday or next Tuesday, I will see you next Thursday if you would decide to come back at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard for Meet the Polymaker. But that's all my rant for the night. You guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, a wonderful week, wonderful weekend. I'll see you next time. See ya.